So the next thing I want to talk about is the BitBadges SDK. So this is a JavaScript library that kind of helps you with kind of all aspects of BitBadges development. You kind of saw a preview of it with the API, so you can use the API through the SDK. But there's also a lot more features and snippets that you can leverage with the SDK. And again, like I said, it's kind of an all-in-one um, Swiss Army knife tool or library for any part of BitBadges development. So to get started, just go to BitBadges SDK or npm install BitBadges SDK, and then you can use it in your application. So this, you can see the code for it on our GitHub, or you can also see all the documentation that is hosted in here. So here's the code, and then you can see all the documentation here. As you can see, there's tons of different categories, anything from your API types to getting accounts, what kind of document types we use behind the scenes to managing balances from merging them, sorting them, subtracting, anything from claims or just like I said, anything you need. And we attempt to keep this up to date with pretty much every push or release of the latest package version, so it should be as up to date as possible. So let's get into a little bit about like what you can do with it. So I want to note that some of the exported functions might be kind of duplicates in the sense that we have a native type and a prototype. So for example, you might see like for example, the balance interface is like kind of our type that we do, which is like plain TypeScript, but then there might be another balance type with the proto interface. If you're unfamiliar with protocol buffers, it is just a type language that's actually what we use for the blockchain itself. It's maintained by Google. It's just a language that helps you manage types in a consistent format. So, you might see something like the proto.badges.balance, which might be a different object than the balance itself. The other thing I want to mention is that most of the types are classes or interfaces. So for example, the balance interface will start with a lowercase I and just be like the plain JSON only fields. But then like the core balance class will be just a without the capital I, and then it'll have all these different helper functions, such as like converting between different number types, such as like from big int number type to string number type to cloning it to checking if it equals or to JSON or whatever. So just note that if you see a lowercase I in front of the type, it's the plain interface, and then if it starts with a capital letter, it is most likely the class with all the stuff. We try to be as accommodating for like the minimum required data that you need. So typically we try and accept the plain interface where possible, but sometimes we might miss a couple spots and you might have to convert to the actual class itself. The last thing is that there's a couple instances where we have typed arrays with helper functions, such as like a balance array or uint range array. And these are just similar to like uint8 arrays, where you can just have certain balance or certain functions on the class itself, such as like add balances and stuff, and it'll add stuff in place as opposed to passing it to a function. Just a different syntax that we felt was a little more cleaner and could be used in a more readable format, more maintainable format. So yeah, let's get into a little bit more about what you can do. So you can do anything from converting your addresses using the address converters. I actually explained a little bit about this with the .convert function, so you can convert from stringified number types to big int number types by something like this. You can manage uint ranges. So uint ranges are the interface for like the start and end that you've been seeing. They're just a range from some start value to some end value, and a bunch of different things you can do with this, like sorting them, searching if a certain value is within it, inverting it, subtracting one from the other, checking overlaps, anything. So like, and I know it's a little messy, but like you can see a lot you can do with ranges, and ranges actually make up a lot of what we like other parts of the interfaces, such as like timeline times or balance, like ownership times or badge IDs and so on. So speaking of balances, similarly, you can also, manage your balance array, add, subtract, get balances for specific times and IDs, anything you might need. Transfers, managing, like, if I send this amount, how much will I have left over? Anything from address lists. One thing I didn't really get into too much into detail is how we manage address lists, but pretty much address lists are just a list of addresses, and you can either have it as a whitelist, so like you only include the addresses, or a whitelist equals false, so like everyone but the specified addresses are included. And then the list ID is sometimes it'll be a reserved one. You can see the docs for that up here in the core concepts, right here in address lists. But again, though, that's another primitive that you might need to get familiar with in the interface, because that kind of is applicable to a lot of aspects of development, such as like transferability and managing, transfers and stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm not going to go into every single function that we have, but I'd say the best way to like view everything is just to look at the docs, and because it's all in one place and you can see everything that is possible. And if you need the link, just go to this link right here, and you can just browse and see everything you need. It has everything from the types to the functions to the classes and so on. So